This is a 2017 Peugeot Partner. It's only 87,000 miles. It's actually my car. It's due for a time and belt replacement at 110,000 miles or 11 years. So it's well within its distance and age, but to be on the safe side, I want it doing. I've changed a lot of cam belts in my time, but I absolutely hate working on my own car. So my friend Carl is going to do the cam belt change. And for the change, I'm going to video somebody else. Carl, how are you doing?
Not too bad.
Ready?
On the Peugeot for John.
Ready to get stuck in?
Ready to get stuck in.
How, and that's what we're going to do. The engine bay looks fairly cramped, but really for a modern car, there's a lot of room. There's a lot worse belts than these to do. There is one or two special tools that you need to do the belt, but Carl's got all them, so it shouldn't be a problem. This is the first look at the belt. You can't tell by looking at the belt whether it's been changed or not, but it has got tip X marks on here, which means the belt has at some time been changed. But they may have just done the belt. We're going to fit a complete kit, including a water pump. This is the spring-loaded tensioner for the auxiliary fan belt or auxiliary drive belt. All that drives is the alternator in the air conditioning pump. Quite a clever idea because it keeps a constant pressure on the belt. What they call a serpentine belt, multi-V belt, and they do last a really long time. And certainly that's serviceable, so you can put that back on.
Looks fairly new.
It's been changed anyway because it'll be changed when they did put the cam belt on. I think the next thing will be the engine mounting. Then we'll get a bit more access to the various components. The engine's supported on a trolley jack with a rubber block so it doesn't damage the sump. That takes the load off the engine, then the mounting can be removed. Modern battery power tools make short work of jobs like this. Unfortunately, when I was sort of Carl's age, there was none of this, it was all hydraulic, so to speak. These fasteners here are what they call external torques or female torques. That's like the knob part, and the socket's the funny part. There is a mark, or there's a hole in the camshaft here. This pin goes through and locks it. Carl's turning the engine now by the bottom pulley. It's coming nearer. Right, that's in there. Back it up a bit, Carl. Hello here. Right, so that is a positive lock. It's locked in solid. It can't be anything else. I don't know quite what these marks have been lined up with, but you can get away without using special tools and just using paint on the pulleys, but it's not ideal. That's the drive pulley, because it drives the auxiliary belt. That rubber thing there's a cush drive, like
a damper.
Like a damper, that helps with vibration. So that's been removed, and if we look in here, that's the actual crankshaft pulley. Behind this, that's a disc that runs past a sensor, crank angle sensor. So we take the rest of the covers off, crank angle sensor off, that off, and then we can see the bottom belt. The engine's been jacked up just to get better access to the bottom cover. You can see there's not a great lot of clearance here. You've got to be really careful. You do snap something off because everything's made of fantastic plastic. That's the wiring plug for the crankshaft angle sensor. So he's left the wire on, removed the sensor, which is the best way of doing it, because these wiring clips don't like coming off. They're kind of, once they're on, that's their own. You get one or two goes and then they start to wear and they don't come apart anymore. Right, now we can see the belt in all its glory. We've got a cam shaft sprocket, that's an idler, crankshaft pulley, that's a water pump down there, that's a belt tensioner, and that's for the high pressure injector pump. Right, so everything's locked up now. We've got one in the cam shaft, there's one there in the injector pump, and then one in the bottom pulley, so everything's locked up now. We can safely take the belt off. That's actual belt tensioner. There's a bolt there, locks it in, and that bolt there turns in the centric cam, which moves things around in the pulley, on the pulley, and that bar there actually lines up with a mark when the belt tension's right. When Carl comes to tension the belt up, we'll try and get a decent shot of how it works. So the belt tension is preset for you. You haven't got to sort of guess or use a... You used to have a tool for measuring belt tension. It's basically called a finger and thumb, but now it's all done for you. Next thing is this bit down here. That's a water pump. It's you can't tell it's done 80,000 miles. It wants to be changed. It feels all right. It's not leaking, but for safety's sake, you change it, because if the water pump bearing fails, the belt comes off, the engine's scrapped. So you change it all as a complete assembly. At least we do. There wouldn't be a gasket on here or a joint. It'd be face to face with RDB, but it does tend to get quite a hold. The pump could well be on dowels as well. That's it. This is the kit we're going to fit. I like fitting standard, I like fitting genuine dealer kits, but we couldn't get a one. But this is still a good make, and it comes complete 10 belt kit, water pump. This is the new water pump. Once again, it's a plastic impeller, aluminium housing. Some of these are actually, the housings are plastic. Comes with a thin tin joint. There's a big warning on there, don't use sealer. Always have to go over the last little bits of the gasket that is stuck onto the face. These little things are important. You don't want to be putting this together and finding it leaks coolant after you've done all this work. So preparation is 9/10 of the job, basically. all the bolts have been run up using the battery ratchet, but they're all tightened by hand. That probably will be a torque setting for them particular bolts, but experience shows just how tight you can put a 6mm bolt in aluminium. Is that right, John?
Yep. But then when you strip it, you've got John to fix it.
John! If I'd have been doing this job for myself, chances are one of them water pump bolts would have snapped off on the way out. That's the sort of look you have. Mechanics don't work on their own cars. At least people that do it for a living do not work on their own cars. They get a friend to do it and they'll work on their car. And it seems to work out much simpler for everybody concerned.
I think that sits on that peg there.
The tensioner comes pre-tensioned and it's got a little pin that locks the spring, and the tensioner's held fully off. That's a little spring there, that's a little pin there. We call it a grenade pin because when you pull the bastard out, it's like pulling the pin out of a grenade. This is the new belt, and I've just noticed it's got something wrote on there that you rarely see. It actually says, focus you bastard. It says made in the UK, which is quite a novelty. These belts are incredibly strong. You can lift engines with them, you can lift cars with them. What normally happens is the belt doesn't normally snap, the teeth come off, and then it's basically the end of the story once the teeth start to come off.
Just come put your hand on the top of this belt now. Put your hand on the top, please.
I can't, Where you want it? Yeah, you
just come round.
Oh, like on the bottom?
I let go of the bottom.
Sure?
Yeah.
Well, what?
Yeah, just so it doesn't come off this car.
Right. Just come off.
Let's go.
Come off the bottom.
Come on.
It's in there.
See now?
I can get my hand over the top pulley and have you on.
Yeah. In a minute, I'll tell you when. Just making sure I keep the right miniatures on.
On?
Yep, tension's in the right place this time.
Right.
Right,
The little issue we had there was getting the belt to stay in the bottom pulley. This is the drive side of the belt. Turns out we're able to drive the camshaft. And all the tension is that's nice and tight, and the free play is in there where the tension is, exactly the way it should be. So now probably take the pin out and then set the tensioner up. Once the tensioner released, you'll turn this little eccentric bolt and that'll tighten the belt. That's the tension going onto the belt now.
Right, so I need to try and get in a look at this. I'll try and set a mirror in there somewhere. Can you hold that mirror there, John? Mm-hmm. See it here. Sure. Exactly there.
I was actually looking into a mirror here to see the marks on the tensioner, that they're lined up properly. I hope you can see that arrow there. That's a bit with a little hole in. It's got to be between those two. Right, so that's a belt on and tensioned. What you must make sure is that when you press the belt, or you press the...
Where the water pump is below.
On there. When you do. That's the tensioner moving. So now we'll turn the engine over a couple of times just to line things up and then check the tension again, but it's going to be good. Not quite on that fucking water pump sprocket full, is it?
I'll move across on that turner.
Yeah, as Carl mentioned there, the camshaft runs at half engine speed, so you need to do 2 full revolutions of the crankshaft to get 1 full revolution of your camshaft. Then you put the pins back in again, check the valve timing, make sure the tensioner's still in the right place. I'm going to do a little bit. Obviously when you're turning like this, you're feeling, because you don't want to, you know, you've got to make sure things don't tighten up. The belt's coming into line quite nicely there.
Trying to get rid of that pin that's on the top there, John. Should be somewhere close there now. Yep.
Right, so that's a top pin in. Pin goes in your injector pump. And Carl will put the drill in the bottom pulley. Once again, forward a touch more, Carl.
Yeah.
Right, that's good there. Right, so that's all the lock pins in. On some engines, you loosen this bolt and you break a taper in there, or it's got a series of bolts and the actual sprocket moves on the camshaft to get the timing absolutely spot on. But this is a simple engine, just 3 straightforward pins. Right, we'll check the valve type. We'll check the valve timing. Carl's going to check the belt tension, and then.
Yep, still in the window.
Right, you can see it there. The little arrow's right in the middle of the window, exactly where it's supposed to be. Happy with that. It's actually to the top side of it, but as long as it's somewhere in that window, it's all right. It's actually on the tight side there, but the engine is warm, so when it cools off, it'll be right in the middle. Before the cars go on, Carl's going to go around all the bolts again just to make sure. You find mechanics do this.
A lot.
A lot. He knows they're all tight, but you go around again, the last thing you do, then you know everything's tight and you haven't got to stop worrying about it. Excellent. Your headache up. It's all back together now, and the final thing is to put the antifreeze in. In the olden days, bleeding car cooling systems used to be a right nightmare, but Carl's got this device which actually puts a vacuum into the cooling system and draws the antifreeze in. It's a really good bit of kit. I'm going to show it working. I just wish I'd had one of these when we're doing the heads on the Rovers 15-20 years ago. It uses compressed air to create a vacuum. You can see that hose. Look at this. It's stuck the bastard thing flat. So now with the vacuum in the whole system, and that will pull the antifreeze solution straight in. Antifreeze, we use premix antifreeze, 50% antifreeze, 50% water. And we'll always use a really good grade of antifreeze. It's important with a modern engine, aluminium cylinder heads.
I'll pull the top. I'll pull the top, your favourite part?
Aye. Right, I'm going to turn the top now. It's making the gurgling noises. Antifreeze is going in. The hose is starting to become erect again. It means you haven't got a bleed, that's it. Once it's done, that's it. Absolutely spot on, sounds lovely, nice and quiet. It sounds exactly the same as it did, which is basically what you're looking for. Very funny lads, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Yeah.